On Thursday, Steve Bannon's legal team went to court to tell Judge Cornelia Pillard that their client should not, in fact, go to jail for defying a congressional subpoena from the January 6th Select Committee because, get this, Judge Pillard, our guy, Mr. Bannon here, was protected via executive privilege because he was a member of the Trump administration, so he doesn't have to comply with a subpoena to tell him to come in and reveal all these things that were covered under executive privilege. Therefore, you cannot send him to jail for doing that. Well, Judge Pillard responded pretty much the way you would expect Judge Pillard to respond, by essentially telling them, like, yeah, that's not a thing. But she did it far more professional than I would have, which maybe that's why I'm not a judge. Also, didn't go to law school, so that probably helps too. Here's what she said. First of all, Bannon's lawyers said, quote, "The privilege is presumptively valid." To which Judge Pillard responded, well, it's just, that's so broad to say it's presumptively valid, even at its broadest, where the Office of Legal Counsel has written, for example, that a former senior official can assert an absolute testimonial immunity. It only covers communications within the scope of that former senior official's service in the White House, and none of the conducted issues here was during Mr. Bannon's service in the White House, was it? None of it. And the attorney who just tried to argue that he's covered from executive privilege said, right, Judge, it was during the presidency. And then the judge asked, but not during Mr. Bannon's service. To which the attorney sheepishly responded, correct, Your Honor. So Bannon's lawyers, apparently of the same legal caliber as Donald Trump's lawyers, they go to the judge and they say, hey, Judge, our dude's got executive privilege, which basically means testimonial immunity, didn't have to comply with the subpoena, therefore he cannot go to jail. And the judge says, listen, that executive privilege only covers communications from inside, back and forth, essentially, to the president of the United States. And the attorney's like, yeah, that's right. And the judge says, but your guy wasn't a part of the administration during the time period that he was going to have to testify for. Isn't that right? And the lawyer was like, yep. Oh, shucks. Shouldn't have said that, right? Because you just admitted that your client doesn't get the very thing that you literally went to court to argue that he should get. So, no executive privilege for you, buddy boy. But I gotta hand it to these lawyers, to be perfectly honest with you. They knew this going in. They knew that they know what executive privilege covers, by the way. 100% they know what executive privilege covers. They were effectively throwing the spaghetti on the wall to see if any of it was going to stick, and none of it did. Now they got this big old mess to clean up. They all look like idiots, and Steve Bannon will probably end up going to jail, not just because his lawyers are, horrible at this, but because he has no actual defense for defying that congressional subpoena last year. There is no defense of it. So it is what it is. But don't get your hopes up too much, folks, right? Steve Bannon's not going to go be locked away for, a couple of years. It'll be a couple months. That's it. Probably get out earlier than we would expect him to. So this is going to be more like a really horrible, horrible vacation for Steve Bannon than an actual punishment. But it will happen nevertheless. And I guess we could take a little solace in that, right? Hey, everyone. This is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.